Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Ever get that feeling like, you're meant for something more, something bigger, but like everyone just expects you to, today we are going to do a deep dive into Who Better Than You. This book part memoir, part masterclass is Will Packer's story. It's all about, defying expectations and just like building an amazing life. If that sounds like something you're into, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any other deep dives. Oh, and you can find a link to the book in the description below. So we're going to unpack Packer's journey, from like student filmmaker to big-time Hollywood producer. We'll dig into the strategies he used to like navigate an industry that, well, let's face it, isn't always the most welcoming.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into this really interesting idea he calls healthy arrogance. Basically, it's about having that unshakable belief in yourself and your vision, especially when things get tough.
And speaking of tough, Packer starts his story with a pretty bold move. Picture this: student film premiere, right? Front row seats. Reserved but empty. And guess who those seats were for? The Hollywood elite. He even invited Oprah.
That's a perfect example of what he's talking about with the healthy arrogance thing. It's not about like being egotistical or putting other people down. It's about having the guts to believe in your vision, even when you're just starting out. I mean, he knew who he wanted to reach, and he wasn't afraid to just go for it, even if it meant skipping the, traditional ways of doing things.
It's funny, though, because he actually says he didn't want to invite Oprah. Like, he didn't want to rely on the approval of, the establishment. He wanted to connect with his audience directly.
Right, and you can see that independent spirit in his early work. So there's this film, Chocolate City. It wasn't a perfect movie, but it really connected with people. It reflected their experiences, their lives. It was a win for representation, It spoke to a community that often feels invisible.
It makes you think, what stories are we missing? What perspectives aren't being heard? And what can we do to help bring those stories to light?
That's a really important question. And honestly, Packer's journey gives anyone who feels unheard a kind of blueprint. He talks about the power of just not knowing how hard something's going to be. Like, if he had known, maybe he would have hesitated, but he didn't. He just went for it.
That is such a crucial lesson. I mean, think about it. We get so caught up in planning and overthinking that we never actually take that first step. Have you ever felt stuck because you were afraid of what you didn't know? How'd you deal with that?
I think everyone feels that way sometimes, but what Packer's story shows us is that sometimes you just got to jump in. And he emphasizes that, learning as you go, adapting, and not letting setbacks define you.
He definitely had some setbacks, that's for sure. Like that story about Kevin Hart tricking him into an all-night party the night before a big shoot in Atlanta. Talk about needing to think on your feet.
That's totally Packer. Unexpected things happen all the time, and he just rolls with it. He even connects that experience to get this being at Super Bowl LI, surrounded by Patriots fans experiencing that crazy emotional game.
Yeah, that story felt kind of random at first. I wasn't sure how it fit in.
But he brings it back around to resilience and dealing with disappointment. Success isn't a straight line. There are bumps along the way. How you deal with those bumps, that's what matters.
Like they say, it's not about how many times you fall, it's about how many times you get back up.
Exactly. And he learned this early on. He talks about this moment from his childhood. He brought home his first honor roll certificate, all proud. And his mom, she goes, "You ain't that great, but you could be."
Wow. Talk about tough love. But I get how that to be motivating.
Right. She set the bar high. It's not about being good enough. It's about pushing yourself or reaching your full potential.
It's like she was planting that seed of healthy arrogance, not being satisfied with mediocrity, always aiming higher.
And that drive to excel, it goes hand in hand with understanding people. Packer really gets into that. He tells this story from high school where he completely misread a friend's intentions, and it led to this huge misunderstanding. It's about empathy, really trying to see where people are coming from.
That's so important, especially in a field like filmmaking where you're always collaborating. It's about connecting with people on a deeper level.
And he doesn't shy away from the tough stuff either. He shares this story about being racially profiled by the police when he was younger. It's a stark reminder of the systemic issues he's had to deal with, throughout his life and his career.
That story really hit me hard. It just adds this whole other layer of complexity to his journey. It's not just about personal success. It's about navigating a world that isn't always fair.
Yeah, and that experience probably shaped how he sees things in Hollywood. He talks about how hard it was to get support from his own fraternity for his movies Stomp the Yard. They weren't interested until it became a success.
That's so relatable. We all want validation, especially from the people we're closest to. But sometimes they're the ones who doubt us the most.
It's a reminder that true validation comes from within. He learned to trust his gut, to focus on his vision, and not let other people's opinions get in the way.
And he's honest about the realities of Hollywood. Even with its image of being progressive, he talks about the gender and racial disparities, the biases.
And he doesn't just complain about it, he talks about the importance of allyship, of using your position to help others to create
He
opportunities.
walks the walk. He's achieved incredible success, but he's using his influence to advocate for change, to make the industry more inclusive.
And he does it with this great mix of humor and determination. He tells this hilarious story about almost missing a flight to Jamaica with his girlfriend, now his wife. He had to navigate this crazy airport chaos with just pure charm and audacity.
That story was so funny. It shows how quick he is on his feet, his ability to just find a solution, even when everything's going wrong.
It speaks to his resourcefulness, his fearlessness. He's not afraid to take risks, to challenge the way things are done. And that's something that's served him well his whole career.
He also talks about how important it is to have a secret weapon, someone you trust, someone who sees your potential and supports you no matter what. He says his executive assistant, Shayla, is that person for him.
Makes you think, right? Who are your secret weapons? The people who give you honest feedback, who support your dreams, who help you through tough times. It's important to have those people in your life.
It's so true. We often think about achievement as this individual thing, but it's not. It's about having the right people around you. People who believe in you, challenge you, and help you become your best self.
And speaking of becoming your best self, Packer talks about this idea of owning your moment. Like he landed a budget deal on his birthday. He really felt like it was his day.
Like he willed it into existence.
Yeah, it's about having that positive energy, believing in yourself, especially when things are tough.
He shares this other great insight, and it comes from his wife. She reminds him, even when things aren't going his way, that he's winning at life overall.
It's about gratitude, right? Perspective. Success isn't just about, checking things off a list. It's about living a life that feels good.
And sometimes that means going against the grain, even when the people you love want you to play it safe. His mom wanted him to get a corporate job. Stability. But he just knew in his gut that wasn't his path.
That's that self-determination he talks about, trusting your instincts, not letting fear or other people's expectations hold you back. Have you ever felt that pull to do something different even when people questioned you?
All the time. I think anyone who's ever chased a dream that's outside the box has dealt with that. How about you? Ever have to choose between, the safe route and what your gut was telling you?
Oh, definitely. It's always scary to step outside your comfort zone, but Packer's story shows us that sometimes those risks pay off. Big time. I mean, think about it. He actually achieved a lifelong dream. He became a limited partner at the Atlanta Falcons.
That's amazing. I remember reading that and being like, wow, this guy really can make anything happen.
And what's really inspiring is that it wasn't something he was actively pursuing. It just happened because of all the work he'd put in, his reputation, his commitment to his community. That's what building a legacy is all about.
He embodies healthy arrogance. It's that belief in yourself, that drive to make a difference.
And he's so open about the challenges. Remember how he talked about trying to get his own fraternity behind Stomp the Yard? They weren't interested until it was a hit.
It's like sometimes, even when we have good intentions, looking for validation from others can backfire.
It's better to just focus on the work, on your vision.
And he pulls back the curtain on Hollywood. He calls it, I love this, a white patriarchal frat house, even though it tries to seem progressive.
Yeah, and he talks about how he struggled to get recognition for his work. People saw him as an extension of other powerful people, not as his own person.
Which makes his success even more impressive. He's made his own way, pushed boundaries, advocated for diversity, all within a system that doesn't always want to change.
And he did it by surrounding himself with good people, prioritizing relationships, really understanding what makes people tick. Remember the story about his high school friend, D-Mac? It wasn't just a funny story. It was a lesson in empathy and boundaries.
Totally. It highlights how important it is to understand that everyone's experience is different. And what I really appreciate is that Packer is honest about his mistakes. Like that time he bailed on his friend Rob at the comedy club after Rob bombed on stage. He could have left those parts out.
It makes him relatable. It shows that even someone who's accomplished so much is still human. We all make mistakes. We're all learning as we go.
And that makes his advice even more valuable, because it's coming from someone who's been there, the ups and the downs.
Right. And I love that he doesn't just say, find your passion. He says, lean into what you're good at and find the joy in that.
It's a much more practical way of thinking about it, because not everyone has that aha fashion moment. but we all have strengths we can use.
Exactly. It's about finding those strengths and then figuring out how to use them in a way that feels fulfilling.
He also tells this crazy story about almost missing a flight to Jamaica with his girlfriend because his passport was expired. It's like the ultimate example of thinking on your feet.
That anecdote perfectly captures his fearlessness, his ability to just figure things out even when it seems impossible. It's about taking risks, and believing in yourself.
There are so many good takeaways in this book. What's resonated with you the most so far? For me, it's that balance he strikes between like ambition and self-awareness. He's achieved amazing things, but he hasn't lost sight of, what really matters. Family, gratitude, giving back.
It's not just about success for him. It's about leaving something behind, building a legacy. And that's something we can all do, no matter what our goals are. It's about using what we have, our influence, to make the world a better place.
And let's be real, the guy's a workhorse.
Oh, absolutely. But it's not just about, working all the time. He talks about owning your look, too, projecting confidence, showing up as your best self. He gets that how you present yourself matters.
It's like that story about his first meeting with Oprah at her estate, Promised Land.
Oh, yeah. And how she talked about wanting 6 trees in her yard because her neighbor had 3. It's such a small thing, but it says so much about setting goals, even if they seem insignificant at first. It's about constantly pushing yourself to do better.
The book is full of those little nuggets of wisdom, things that really make you stop and think.
He's taken all those years of experience, the ups and downs, and turned them into advice that anyone can use. Whether you want to be a filmmaker, an entrepreneur, or you're just trying to figure out what's next.
So what does this all mean for you? What are you taking away from this deep dive?
It's about finding that healthy arrogance, that belief in yourself. It's about knowing that challenges are just opportunities to learn and grow. And it's about surrounding yourself with the right people, your secret weapons, the people who will support you, push you, and help you become the best version of yourself.
Your dreams are worth chasing, and you can achieve amazing things. Remember, as Packer says, who better than you?
Go make it happen.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into who better than you. We want to hear from you. What resonated with you? Share your favorite part of the book in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives like this.